Greetings, I'm Deb the developer. This lesson covers the input tag for text and password fields, and the label tag that connects the visible description to each input. These are the most common form elements, and the pattern we establish here carries through every other input type. Input is a void element, no closing tag. The tag attribute determines what kind of input it creates. Text fields, checkboxes, date pickers, file uploads, color pickers, they are all input elements with different type values. Two more attributes are important on every input: ID and name. ID is how the label connects to the input. We will use that in a moment. Name is how the input identifies itself when the form is submitted. The server receives key value pairs, and name is the key. Without a name, the input's value is not included in the submitted data. Input elements of type text creates a single line text field. This is the default type if you leave off the attribute entirely, but always write it out explicitly for clarity. On its own, that renders a text box with no labels. The user has no idea what to put in it. That is where label comes in, which we will cover right after we get through the password field. Input elements of the type password creates a text field that masks its input. Characters are replaced with bullets or asterisks as the user types. The value is still in the DOM and can be expected by the user with browser tools. Password fields obscure the value on the screen, but password security comes from the server side, not from the HTML type. Now, let's connect those fields to something the user can actually read. Every input on a form should have a visible label. The label tag creates that label and critically connects it to the input using the for attribute. The value of for must match the ID of the input it describes. When the label and input are linked in this way, two things happen. First, clicking the label focuses the input. For text fields, that is a small convenience. For checkboxes and radio buttons, it is a significant usability improvement. Second, screen readers read the labeled text when the input receives focus, so the user knows what the field is for. Notice required on both elements. That is a validation attribute. It tells the browser not to submit the form if that field is empty. The browser handles the error message automatically. No JavaScript needed for basic required field validation. With the core pattern in place, here are a few more attributes you will reach for regularly. Placeholder adds hint text inside the input field that disappears when the user starts typing. Use it for an example of the expected format, not as a replacement for the label. The label should always be present. Max length limits how many characters the user can type. Value pre-fills the input with a default value. Use text input elements for single line text and password input elements for masking input. Remember to use a label for element tied to the input's ID every time, no exceptions. Required for fields that must be filled in. Placeholder for some formal hints. These are the fundamentals that every other form element builds on. Build a small login form with a text field and a password field. Wire up the labels correctly and verify that clicking the label focuses on its input. Don't just watch it. Do it.